Batman Superman World's Finest, number 41, written by Mark Waid, art by ADRIAN Gutierrez.
So, how are you, David, with Bizarros? Because I know where Pete stands, I know where Connor stands, and I feel like, it really shouldn't, right? We should be able to judge a story based on what's there.
Mhm.
However, the Bizarro Hill is a steep one to climb.
Yes.
So, where are you at with Bizarro?
So currently, on the New 52 show I do, I am currently in the post-convergence era, which means I'm doing that Bizarro miniseries that's coming out right now.
Okay.
I can work with that Bizarro. That Bizarro's fine. And I think the reason I can work with that Bizarro is because it's one Bizarro. It is one guy, and I just have to know that whatever he says is the opposite. That's fine. When you throw in an entire planet of Bizarros, which the entire storyline is some of them are speaking backwards and other ones are not, I'm done. I have no idea what any of the Bizarros were saying in this issue.
Yep. It's strictly just based off of vibes, and this is where I'm happy that ADRIAN Gutierrez came over from Blue Beetle, because at least the art looks rad. I'm a big fan of his style. It gets a little bit manga-ish in places, but just the colors are always vibrant. The inks, they're heavy where they need to be. Because that's what I started doing. I learned from Pete, you don't have to read every bubble sometimes.
Right.
So when I got to a Bizarro, I would skip it. And I hate to say that because after watching the Superman movie, I was thinking about the different rogues, right? And as much as I love Superman, it's very, very hard to come up with a top 5. Because for me, Superman usually works best when it's, like in War World, where he's fighting a system of oppression, right? Yeah, he's fighting Mongol, but he's what does that represent? And so I got to thinking, and just by default, Bizarro ended up in my 5 spot. And then I started reading this, and I was like, oh no, I might have to readjust my list, because I am annoyed.
Yeah, no, I don't think Bizarro on his own, like Bizarro Prime, I think they call him in this. He's not a bad villain. He's not a bad foil. I don't think he's a bad character. But the entire planet of the Bizarros, that's where the line needed to be drawn well before that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the imperfect clone that just goes around, and he's more of a menace than like a danger, right? Where Bizarro ultimately just wants to help. But because he's an imperfect clone, his helping causes more bad things. And I always prefer that. So like in that mini that you're reading, that's the one where him and Jimmy are driving across the country.
Yeah, they're trying to get to Canada because Canada is Bizarro America.
Right. And then we end up with Colin, the Chupacabra.
Yep.
And whatever. God, that's a good story. I'm a big fan of that one. Yeah, like you said, when it's one Bizarro, that's endearing. When it's all of them, it's like, well, no. What was with the Bizarro that twisted his head off and was holding it in his hand and he was crying?
I don't know. So the overall plot of the story here, the gist of it, as we find out from a Jimmy Olsen he still looks like Bizarro, but his mind has been de-Bizarroed. It turns out that there is a plague going on that is de-Bizarroing people, and as they get de-Bizarroed, they are in horror of how awful their world is. And all of the already Bizarro people hate the fact that they are neat and orderly now, so they're trying to attack them, and they have no sense of staying away from this plague because in Bizarro world, you run towards the illness. So why one of the Bizarros has his head chopped off beats me, man.
Yep. Because they go, what was it with the one that was sobbing? And I was like, yeah, what was with that? I would like to know.
I will say it's, I guess, the letterer more than the artist. Anytime that you have a Bizarro that is still Bizarroed, it's a black text box with green text. But the normal ones, the ones that have been de-Bizarroed, have been switched to a normal text box, white and black. So at the very least, you could understand it a little bit there. But that just raises more questions because the one with his head chopped off is still Bizarroed. He hasn't got hit with the plague, so I don't know why he's like that.
Yeah, and if he's still opposite, he's crying because he's happy. Like, is this the one that started everything?
He says kill me, which in Bizarro I would assume it means save me.
Save me.
But also he's just sitting in a random suburban house that has like an actually manicured lawn and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe this is going to be something, because this arc isn't over. It's not a one shot. We're going to continue on this, but it's so baffling here.
Yeah. And so we get Superman, Batman, and Robin that come through because they got pulled through a dimensional door into Bizarro world, and they need to find this ray. What's it do again?
It's the imperfect cloning thing. It's apparently the thing that was used to make the original Bizarro.
Right. And so, because they would have hidden it on our world, the Bizarros left it in the open, so they just need to locate it. And then Superman has to go up and get some kryptonite, because that'll turn the kryptonite into the blue kryptonite, which will help the Bizarros.
Yes.
And so that's our mission with them. And I'm trying to remember, because again, I was going through. They fire it up.
It's just a thing where Batman's working on the circuitry because it's all old and worn out. Right. Superman has to go into space to find the kryptonite, and he just spends a really long time psyching himself up to get near it enough that he can knock it down to Bizarro Earth. And then all the timing lines up perfectly where they activate the machine at the same time as the kryptonite's going through it, and they make a huge shard of blue kryptonite for knocking out the Bizarros.
Yes. And then this is the part that I was like, I remember a Bizarro showing up.
Yes.
And as I'm going through the issues, they end up going to the Fortress of Solitude, which is, funnily enough, in the middle of the Sahara, right?
It's the Fortress of Multitudes.
Multitudes, yep. With the Bat Cave with the signs, right? It's got these big neon signs pointing their way. And that's where they're in the Bizarro Bat Cave, where there's a giant chicken and what looks like a Bizarro Nightwing suit up in the thing, and it's Bizarro #1 and Bizarro Prime, and Batzarro waiting for them.
I'll be honest, I think mentally I was just so ready for the T-Rex, I didn't even realize that was a chicken.
Yep. Wow. It's a giant chicken, which did get me a good chuckle. Yeah. Here. And I give Gutierrez credit too for drawing Batzarro not in the way that I've seen. Like we're talking pre New 52 during the Batman Superman book. There was a Batzarro. I feel like that Jeff Loeb had created completely different vibes than this one. So this one definitely feels like a Bizarro that's just put on a Batman costume.
Yes,
which is kind of funny.
I agree. However, at least on the cover, he's given me hard Batman Who Laughs vibes, and I could do without that.
See, and that's the kind of version that that Jeff Loeb done in that book all the way back then. So I was pleased that that's not the version that we at least I think that we got.
I mean, it's just one panel and he's all wrapped up in his cape, so it's hard to tell specifically, but we'll see when we get there. Yes. Also worth noting is that the Prime Bizarros, the Batman and the Superman, are speaking normally, so they've been infected with whatever this plague is.
Right. And it makes me wonder to what end? Like, was it a plan to try to fix things? On Bizarro World to have their own realm? Yeah. But
this feels to me like it's going to be the first 3 pages of the next issue are going to be, here's the explanation of what happened, Superman.
This has been one of our issues with this book, as it's been around, is Wade writes all these big things and he has ideas and it's never what I want him to focus on, right? Because it's Mark Waid, right? I want big, grand, epic storytellings. Right. And granted, that's not what World's Finest is for. But man, you have early days Batman and Superman teaming up. And I just want this book to be a little bit more fun. And it always feels like, not homework, but there's a certain amount of challenging that this book does that at least it's consistent in that way. Yeah,
I will say, somewhere in the middle of that, somewhere when they were fighting off the Bizarros, I did really get the sort of Silver Age vibe that I think he's going for. Like, I got that vibe, but by the time we got to the end, it felt like he was kind of beholden to ending in a modern comic book way that just kind of threw away that Silver Agey sort of fun to it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, because it starts to be more of a chore than Silver Age fun.
Right.
Yeah. So
however, I will say, obviously, Mark Waid has a lot of pull when it comes down to like current directions in DC and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
If this ends up, and I'm throwing just this out here, if this ends up with them fixing the Bizarro speak for the universe, where like they speak just normally, and like everything else about him could be Bizarro, but if he just speaks normally, still dumb, but in a normal pattern, I'm not going to hate it. I'm not going to dislike the idea.
Yeah. Because the whole me am not Bizarro thing drives me nuts.
Right.
He can just say me am Bizarro.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
Me want to help big. You know? And again, that would go with the more version of him that I like, that is he wants to help, but he just, you know, he's not fully cooked.
Right.
So,
he could still have the morality flip. Yeah, he could still have the morality flip, but he doesn't need to talk like that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man. And again, I talked about it earlier, but Gutierrez's art, I understand it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I just really like the way that he draws these characters. There's a certain style to it. Like right before that last page, there's on the bottom of it, there's a panel with Robin, Superman, and Batman on it. And they just it looks like classic versions. You know, just slightly tweaked, playing with the style.
Yeah.
Pete always goes off, but Pete always brings up the DC house style. And I do like here that Gutierrez plays with that. Because, like, yeah, technically it is house style, but he plays with the proportions just a bit. Because, like, here, Superman's chest and, like, neck area look massive compared to Batman and Robin's.
Oh, yeah.
So it makes him have this almost larger than life to him.
Yeah.
And he did that a lot in that Blue Beetle book. So.
Also, I mean, the first like 4 pages or so are basically just a horror story where he doesn't know how he got here. He's out running the Bizarros. Yeah. It comes across as like a solid horror story up until Batman shows up. So definitely got style points there. All right, ratings. Sure. What would you give World's Finest number 41?
Yeah, I'm going to give this a straight 7.
I was thinking 7 to a 6.5. I was bouncing around that. I think art-wise, it does boost it up into the 7 for me, because I do agree it is very fun art. It could be... I could see this working with as stylized as it is, or if they actually drew it in like a Silver Age, very stilted style, like that one issue of Dial H for Hero from back in the day. Either one of those would work, but if they did it just like... you know, standard house style, I don't think that would have been the right choice for this book. So, yeah, I'll go with a 7.
Sweet.